He was a junkie Danish fashion designer. He told me about this amazing deal that he had.
And how much did he want for you to invest in that?
And I was shooting, and then I tell him, wow, you look almost respectable like this. And he made a face, and I didn't understand why.
Well, hello there, Internet. Pete here from Thairish Times. What's the story? I hope you're keeping well. So today we're going to interview Boaz, who's an expat in Bangkok for 20 years. He's an author, poet, artist, and photographer. And if you've been following the channel, you'll have seen that I've interviewed him 2 months ago, where he spoke about how he withdrew from the society in Bangkok for 7 years. Okay. And today we have Boaz back again, and he's going to talk about the conmen and shady characters he's experienced in Bangkok, from junkies, conmen to executives in certain charities that take all the money, really, and the money doesn't go, well, most of the money doesn't go to where it needs to go to help the people that need to be helped. Some executives like to line their pockets. So without further ado, let's get into the interview with Boaz. Let's have a chat with him and hear his stories. And if you like the video, do subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment, and hit that like button as well. Really appreciate it. Cheers.
Bangkok is such a layered place where you can find anything that you want in terms of people if you just look for it. Again, I met people here that I would never meet anywhere in the world, from all levels of society, from archbishops and ambassadors and royal family to the basic drunk blues players and the junkies who come here because it's cheap and they can live. If it's the artists or just, people that are really thrown out of society, you can find all of them. Now, for an author, for a writer, that I hunt for stories, Bangkok is an amazing place. I'll give you another story, the one that I sent you from the titles, about the Cambodian general and the moldy T-shirts.
Hit us with that story.
I used to have this junkie Danish designer, Danish, not the pastry, the country, Denmark. Anyway, he was a junkie Danish fashion designer that I shot him a couple of times when I was a photographer, because he was a character, He used to have all these tattoos, but old-fashioned tattoos, like they used to do in the 50s and things like that. And he had an American black girlfriend, which was also weird. And when I was a photographer, I was gathering these people and bringing them to the studio to get good shots, character shots. And we became friends because he was interesting. And at the time, I was flush with cash because I was a very, in-demand photographer. And he was a junkie, which means that he used to hit me up for cash every time with a new story. Oh, I need this, I need 2,000 baht, my landlord locked me out, and I need 1,000 baht. Now, I didn't mind. Again, I could help, and it always had a nice story. It was always entertaining. At least he puts an effort into making up a good story of why he needs this money now. Now, I know that 15 minutes later, he's in Klong Toy in the slums buying drugs. But I got my story, he got the cash. I think it's a good transaction. One day, he comes to me, and he asked me if I want to invest. Now, this is the point where I said no, because I like helping creative junkies, but I'm not stupid. And he told me about this amazing deal that he had. He found in one of his trips to Cambodia an old retired general that had a warehouse full of vintage 70s American T-shirts that they probably did there or something, but real vintage. And he said that, coming from Denmark, he said he has a friend in the party scene in Denmark, and every T-shirt like this, and we're talking real vintage old styles. I've seen a couple of the T-shirts that he bought with him. He can sell for up to 20 euros in Denmark. It's a very expensive country. He said, okay, I'm going to buy the full container of t-shirts and sending them to Denmark. And he went and he spent 3 days sitting in this old warehouse, choosing all the right t-shirts that he wanted, almost dying of the conditions there, because again, these are original t-shirts from the 70s. I mean, they are sitting in the warehouse since the 70s. You can imagine what the air was in the. And he said that it chose like 300 or 400 t-shirts, a big pile, and he managed to find people that actually gave him money, invested. I think it was something like $1,000. Not a lot, really. Again, we're talking about Cambodia and an ex-general. Paid the money, chose the t-shirt, they sent the container. Now, again, you're talking about Cambodia in general. So basically, they didn't send the t-shirts that he wanted. They just took some t-shirts, threw them in the container, and sent them to Denmark. He said that after 2 months that it was on the way, of course, it wasn't the t-shirts that he chose, and it came in such moldy condition that they actually lost money in sending them to the garbage dump.
Jeez. And how much did he want for you to invest in that?
$1,000.
Okay, not too bad.
No, $1,000, and you get back like 5 times more than that. But I just, it wasn't nice, but I laughed when he told me the story, and it was so obvious. I don't know if you've been to Cambodia when you were here, but it's so, the old generals, the corrupt, they're taking advantage of the poor Farangs, the expats that come in here.
So what happened then with this guy, this Danish dude?
Never saw him again. I mean, he disappeared somewhere. It's just one of these stories that I gather.
These scam artists. There's plenty of them around.
Yeah, because again, there's something about, if you look at Paris in the 50s and the 60s, the jazz scene was so hot because all the Americans came because you can get cheap heroin in Paris at the time, and you didn't get in trouble. In Thailand, it's yaba and amphetamines and all of this. But still, junkies, when you don't have to handle them really, are very entertaining. It's a kind of a psychosis that always gives good stories. Horrible life for them. But I have a lot of friends, again, when I used to be in society, in the circle, I had a lot of friends that got into a lot of very bad situations because of that. Americans, British.
Are we talking prison?
Also prison. I used to have, I started a production company when I started doing the music with an American guitar player who will remain nameless, but he was very interesting because he was a good guitar player, but he actually was a jazz drummer before that, who studied with some great jazz drummers in the States. And then he became a guitar player. So it was a very style of playing that was influenced from drumming and jazz. And he was a recovered junkie. And the only problem with recovered junkies is that there's no such thing. The minute that he recovered, and we were sitting and we were making business plan about the productions and this and that, and starting to recording and writing down material. And he got his life together this time. And he went and he got a really good teaching job, English teaching job in Siam, the middle of the town, a really good paycheck. And the first paycheck that he got, he said, okay, I want to celebrate this paycheck. So he went to Plum Toy to buy drugs.
What kind of drugs? He's probably getting yaba, is he?
Yeah, amphetamines.
Okay.
And when it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you're the only white person in the whole area, you will get arrested. And during the 3 years that he did in prison here, he got in a fight and got a brain injury, and now he can't play guitar because his left hand doesn't move very well.
Jeez, and is this guy still in Bangkok?
I think so. I haven't heard from him. I think I saw something about him a couple of years ago. He became a born-again Christian and something like that. But kids, stay in school, don't do drugs, at least not these kind of drugs.
What's the story with the one titled The Outsourcing King Who Outsourced Himself from Thailand with His Clients' Money?
When I was in the Rotary International, the charity organization, I did a very nice self-promotion for my business when I joined. I was a photographer at the time. And I told people, anybody that is here, because you're in the charity organization, come over to my studio. I will do, corporate executive portraits for you for free. Just come and visit. For me, it was fun. It was also giving me more people to my roster. Yeah? It was a good way to have somebody on executive level for an hour conversation, because they come to the studio, they sit, we're getting ready, I take pictures. It's a one-on-one thing. Some of them were really big companies. Some of them brought me clients later or just work for their company. And I always used to tease them because I don't give a fuck. You could be the manager of a multi-million-dollar company, you could be a royal family, you could be the star of a soap opera. That for me, you're just a meat puppet. If I'm with a camera, you're going to do what I'm saying, and I'm going to get things out of you, expressions that maybe you don't want to. And there was one of these guys that came, and he really was. He was an old Brit, and he really was very respectable. And I was shooting, and then I tell him, wow, you look almost respectable like this. And he made a face, and I didn't understand why. I didn't know what I touched, what button I pushed there. Because I said it to everybody, and everybody smiles. And a couple of weeks later, I found out that, there's a lot of outsourcing companies here that take accounting and HR and things like that. He got all of the people in the Rotary to send him the outsourcing, pay on the monthly. They didn't do anything. They just took the money every month. And at a certain point, just run away.
How come he made that face, though? I mean, when you said that you almost look respectable.
Because he thought that I knew something.
Oh.
When I said, you look almost respectable like this, and winked. I didn't know shit. I just teased him because I like to poke people to get a reaction. And I didn't understand why he make this face of, okay. Now, if you think this is Bangkok story, the real Bangkok story is that when he left, one of his clients took over his company as punishment. He owed him the money, so he said, okay, I'm taking over your company. And you say to yourself, okay, that's justice, right? The guy that took over the company screwed me 6 months later, and he still owes me like $700. You're talking about 12 years ago. Bangkok is a dog-eat-dog world. Even when you go to, I try to be in the charity organizations because you would think that you will have a better class of people. But no, as you said, a lot of these things are for networking. Rotary is completely for networking.
You mentioned in the first interview that you said that you don't trust other charities. You mentioned that you don't handle the money. You don't touch it. And when I was in Thailand as well, I was very wary of charities. Now I'm not saying there's plenty of good ones out there, but there are some dodgy ones out there that if I gave money to, you would know where that money goes.
Well, I know where the money goes. You can look at the lunch budget of the executives, and you can look at the cars that they drive. You can look at the events that they make. And I can understand that for some people, this is just a job. They raise money, but they also expect to be paid a certain level of paycheck. They come from the States, they come from the UK, they can't work for $1,000 a month because they're 50 years old, they have experience, they expect that somebody will pay $4,000 a month. The fact that the charity itself raises only $5,000 a month, that doesn't concern them. They are doing a job. They're supposed to. Again, if you look at the Google one day the paychecks of the UN, UNDP, UN, any part of the UN, especially in places like Thailand, and you look at the paychecks. When I was a famous photographer and I was making $5,000 a shoot a day, I was still not making the amount of money that a normal UN head of department is making in Thailand.
$5,000 a day, jeez. Huh? If you start back up again, give me a shout, and I'll carry your suitcase for you. I'll carry your cameras.
Well, I did have assistants that did all that for me. I just stopped because I hated that part of the job. The $5,000 a day was shooting models on the beach, jumping with their hands, like, or walking around.
Those like happy kind of sanuk, those kind of photo shoots.
And I just, again, I'm not complaining. One day like this would pay for all of my artsy, dark, artistic kind of shoots that I did for myself. But I guess I'm just spoiled. I'm one of these. No, it's too normal for me. It blocks my chakras.
How about this story? You did not see me here, meeting the pillars of society and captains of industry in Patpong after hours.
Patpong is dead. Now they're trying to revive it. But 20 years ago, Patpong was Patpong. It was the ping pong shows, and it was, the hand job bars, and it was, and we used to have in the Rotary, one of the owners of the bars was a member of the Rotary. So we used to go and drink after the lunches, have a drink before we go back home to the office. And I knew the area quite well. Every time that I had visitors coming in, I used to take them to Patpong because that's the thing you do. Some of them you take them to the actual ping pong show and banana show, and because it's part of the nightlife. Some of them you just walk around in the sleazy, fake Rolex market, and all the girls, hey, handsome, come there. You can be against it, you can be for it, you can be feminist, you can be whatever. But that was Bangkok, at least 20 years ago. And every single time that I used to come with the guests to bring them there, I'm walking, and as I'm walking, there's one of the bars, the door open, and stumbles out one of the businessmen that I was either working with or in the Rotary or the Freemasons or just people that I know were completely drunk, stumbling out of one of them, sometimes with a nice girl, sometimes alone, always look at me and then, Boaz, you never saw me here, and walk away stumbling drunk, and it became like a. If I ever went there and it didn't happen, I felt that something was missing.
You were the man with all the secrets then.
Well, I've always been, I told you, I've always been the man of the secret because people like to tell me things. But it was so funny that, and the guests that I took always noticed. And they noticed I start laughing. They asked me what's happening. I don't know. You see this guy? That's the owner of the. Remember this big building that we passed? He owns that building. I was like, you never see me.
So Boaz, let's leave it there. I mean, we've talked about some great stuff here, and I hope the viewers enjoyed it. What I'll do is we still have some topics left, and if people want to see a part 3 down the line, leave us a comment down below, because we still have a couple of other topics here, and let's just see. Let's leave it to the audience.
That would be an historic kind of a third part. And if that works, we're going to do the weekly Boaz spot on Thairish news.
Boaz is from Bangkok. Boaz's life, and you can just update us on what's going on. I don't know. Anyway, but there's some great topics here that I'm seeing. I can see them right in front of me here. So anyway, if the people want them, we'll give them what they want. So down in the comment section, leave us a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Cheers.